Humans possess immense self-awareness and technological power, yet we consistently engage in behaviors that degrade our own physical health, our communities, and our ecosystems. These destructive tendencies are highly adaptive survival features, optimized for environments vastly different from the one we inhabit today. We are operating a Stone Age brain within what biologists call an evolutionary mismatch. Biological evolution moves at an agonizingly slow pace. The sharply spiking line represents the recent, explosive rate of technological and environmental change. The divergence between these timelines creates a massive gap. Our neural architecture is wired for a world that has vanished. The specific behaviors compromising our health and environment today are the exact evolutionary tools that kept our nomadic ancestors alive. Analyzing this paradox requires a distinction between immediate motives and biological outcomes, what scientists call proximate and ultimate causation. Proximate causes are the immediate triggers and conscious moral desires people believe drive their actions. This is the logic of choice, incentives, and personal values. Ultimate causes are the unconscious evolutionary adaptations optimized over millennia. These drives exist to ensure genetic replication and survival, often operating beneath conscious thought. This framework allows us to examine human behavior at two very different scales: the interpersonal crisis of loneliness and the global crisis of sustainability. Behavioral interventions often encounter resistance because they focus on proximate intentions while overlooking the ultimate evolutionary drives that continue to steer the human animal. At the interpersonal level, the evolutionary theory of loneliness reframes social isolation through the lens of survival. This visualizes loneliness as an internal alarm system, signaling that vital social ties are frayed. In ancestral environments, group separation meant lost protection and physical death. Because isolation was deadly, loneliness triggers an automatic hypervigilance to social threats, known as the implicit vigilance postulate. This creates a cognitive trap. The lonely individual requires human connection for well-being, but their brain is scanning the social environment for potential danger. To test these mechanics, researchers had 480 observers evaluate strangers who were recording video personal ads. The data validated the signaling function of loneliness. Observers successfully detected which speakers were lonely at a greater than chance degree. This matrix illustrates the social signaling function in action. Humans can accurately perceive the distress of isolation, even from minimal visual and auditory cues. However, internal states distort perception. An observer's own loneliness skewed how they viewed strangers. As observer loneliness increased, they viewed neutral speakers as threatening, causing plummeting ratings for extroversion and agreeableness. This universal penalty caused lower marks for physical, social, and task attractiveness. The data demonstrates that ultimate drives distort proximate reality. Biological hypervigilance causes lonely individuals to unconsciously view neutral strangers as threats, reinforcing their isolation. This evolutionary mismatch also provides a framework for the crisis of global environmental sustainability. The noble savage myth suggests that ancient humans were inherently peaceful conservationists. Anthropology suggests otherwise. The ultimate evolutionary drive was to extract resources from the immediate environment until exhaustion, and then migrate to a new location. Research identifies 5 specific tendencies driving our current ecological damage: self-interest, relative status, social imitation, future discounting, and impalpable concerns. When environmental campaigns emphasize that resources are running out, they can trigger the future discounting drive. Instead of conserving, humans may instinctively consume remaining resources more rapidly to ensure short-term survival. Large-scale environmental destruction is often the result of ancestral resource extraction software running on industrial-scale hardware. Addressing these challenges requires targeting the ultimate drives on the model, beginning with social imitation. The company O-Power utilized this drive to improve efficiency across the massive power grid, rather than relying on moral pleas or financial incentives. They showed residents how their energy use ranked against their neighbors. High performers were rewarded with a simple smiley face on their bill. This social imitation trigger resulted in an energy reduction equivalent to taking 150,000 homes completely off the grid. Another exploitable drive is relative status, expressed through the mechanism of costly signaling. Individuals engage in competitive altruism, competing to signal high status by demonstrating they can incur massive personal costs for a prosocial cause. Visible green products hijack this mechanism. Purchasing an expensive hybrid luxury sedan signals evolutionary fitness to the tribe, much like a peacock's display. This effect is amplified when high-status individuals adopt the technology, accelerating social imitation across the population. If green options are made cheap, easy, or hidden, they lose their utility as a status signal. The drive to use them diminishes because they no longer demonstrate fitness. Effective policy redirects our competition for status towards sustainable outcomes. Interpersonal loneliness and global carbon policy dynamics can be unified under a single predictive model. This matrix maps behavioral intervention efficacy. The horizontal axis charts motives from proximate to ultimate. The vertical measures success. Proximate strategies, appealing to planetary self-restraint or telling lonely people to be agreeable, plot in the low efficacy quadrant. Interventions targeting ultimate drives, status signaling, social imitation, and threat hypervigilance, plot high. Meaningful change is achieved by targeting the ultimate evolutionary drive rather than the proximate symptom. Human nature is a collection of psychological mechanisms produced by prior selection pressures. Our neurological software remains optimized for ancestral survival, operating regardless of our modern industrial context. We cannot override the Stone Age brain with a modern moral argument. Changing behavior at scale requires us to stop fighting against our evolved tendencies and start building systems that harness them.